Okay, gonna go over daily recap here of today's price action. I did not take a trade, so it will be a daily recap, not a trade recap. Um, the reason I didn't take a trade we'll go over. Also, there was a potential for a trade. My model did present itself, but again, I had a reason why I didn't enter. And yeah, so let's start on the weekly because it is Monday, so just get an idea of what the weekly looks like. So realistically, we before 9:30 we're like trading down here. So this looked like a pretty like bearish candle. Not that it really matters. It's the start of the week. But weekly doesn't really give us much because we're simply just consolidating and we've been very choppy. Now, obviously, it would make more sense for us to just continue higher here because that's the overall trend on the weekly. Obviously, it's Nasdaq, it's stock market, it's the stock market. That's what it does. It goes up on the higher time frames. So yeah, but it's very choppy. So I don't, as an intraday trader, it doesn't really give me much to work with. On the daily, you'll see we haven't taken previous daily low. We still haven't taken previous daily high. So coming into the market, I was actually looking for us to take previous daily low, and I'll explain my reasoning as to why. I believe we took previous daily. Yeah, we had taken previous daily low on ES already. Um, and previous daily high is the same as previous weekly high, so that's why it's marked up. Um, Now, if you go to, well, here on the daily time frame, I was saying how this morning I didn't really care too much for this daily fair value gap, just because we were trading inside of it for three consecutive candles, and I don't know, like we got our push and they came back down, so it was like, I don't know, like sure, this is still a place we can react from, which we did, but it's not as great as an unfilled daily fair value gap that just got filled. On top of so the 4 hour is really where I form my bias today and why I want to be bearish on open. Um, we had inversed this 4 hour bullish fair value gap with this candle here. So uh, on top of that, we had a lot of equal lows underneath here, like just some liquidity that could easily be taken out. And we were trading inside of this 4 hour. We were tapping into it before market open. So that's what I was looking at. And why I wanted bearishness. On top of that, if you look at ES had swept this high where NQ did not. So we had an SMT as well. So like we had a sweep, we had an inversion, and we had a lot of nice liquidity underneath, and we were tapping into this inversion on the 4 hour. So that's why I wanted shorts. Now the market just started pumping on open, and it was really tough for me to want to take a buy, and my model presented itself with a buy. But the problem with me longing here was just the fact that I really didn't like how we shot up as quickly as we did. In my opinion, I thought we were just going to either continue lower, or if we shot up, we were going to just stay in this range. Right now, it looks like we might break out of this range. But I thought the options were, in my opinion, because we have a lot of news tomorrow, was either we drop lower and take this liquidity, maybe I get an entry for a short, or we just come back into the range and just continue to trade into it until tomorrow. Um, Option three, which I didn't think would happen, obviously anything can happen, is that we pump and we just break out of this range prior to tomorrow's price action, which is possible still. We'll see how we react off this level here. Um, but it was just tough for me to long inside of this 4 hour bearish fair value gap that was also acting as an inversion fair value gap. Um, and we had an S&T at the highs. Everything to me was pointing bearish, so if I wanted a long, it would have been going against my bias. Now, one thing to consider is the fact that when we pump this quickly, this fast, and just show like no remorse for any short sellers, for any, yeah, then maybe it's possible to be like, you know what? We're bullish today. It is what it is. Like, fuck my bias, fuck my initial bias. Clearly, it was wrong. We're bullish. However, just the fact that we were still trading inside of this area here, and the fact that I thought we would probably just keep ranging if we were going to go back into the range, I didn't want longs. That being said, my model presented itself on the 5 minutes. So we pushed up. This is the 15 minute. We pushed up, continued going. One thing that I did like about this trade in hindsight and maybe would have, could have taken it, was the fact that this is a 1 hour unfilled fair value gap right here. We filled every other fair value gap. There was a 1 hour here and a 1 hour here that made up this 4 hour leg. And we had filled this one completely. We had yet to tap into this one. So that was acting as a draw for sure. And when we came back down and tapped into the 5 minute here, had a nice sweep of liquidity when we did so, right? This low here, if you look on the 1 minute, it's a little bit better, right? 2 minute highest time frame for value gap in the leg. Now, to be fair, if I was going to enter into this, would have had to be quick, but I would have been quick enough because if I'm entering with a market and I'm looking at this, I'm going to be quick enough. I just am. It gave us a little bit of a wick down here. It would have been enough for me, in my opinion. I think I would have been able to enter, especially this is a 2 minute candle. So I think it would have been enough. Anyhow, for a 1-to-1 to this 1 hour unfilled fair value gap off of a 5 minute continuation, which of course we pump so heavily that I can understand why a long trade would work here. I just did not want it because we were inside of that 4 hour bearish fair value gap that, in my opinion, I was hoping would just hold better. I don't know, or like give some sort of rejection. It really didn't. So that's what happened today. That was my bias, how I came into looking at the market today, which I thought was reasonable. I had my reasons why I wanted shorts. We didn't get that. The bias was wrong. We had longs. Now the question you have to ask yourself is, when do you decide to flip your bias? If I had flipped my bias here, I could have entered long and taken a win. My problem again with entering long here is what we didn't inverse this 4 hour yet. So, until we had inversed this 4 hour, I didn't really want to see longs. But when you have such a big pump like we did on open, and then we leave this 1 hour unfilled still as a target, you have a target, you have your continuation model. It's something that you could definitely enter off of. And I don't know what to really make of today. I'm not upset that I didn't enter off of it because I had my reasons why. I wanted to be short and didn't want to take longs today. But in hindsight, could have flipped my bias a little bit quicker once I saw us pumping in one direction and really just being relentless in the buy on the buy side. So yeah, something to just jot down here to take note of. But yeah, it was a no trade day for me.